So here we are at Nightmare on Chicago Street in Elgin. It's like a zombie horror fest. And we have two very special guests. I don't mean special like you're in the minibus or anything, although there might be one crashed out there that's yours. I'm not sure.
I think that's what we came in out there. That little yellow thing.
So, okay, guys, there's a reason we're talking to you guys. First of all, let's get your names, and then I want to hear about your project.
My name is Cris Macht. I live down the street, 10 minutes away in glorious Gilberts, Illinois. I am the censored version is I'm the producer and the director. I won't tell you what Ian calls me.
It's a family podcast.
Yes.
You can't tell him.
Of The Walkers Among Us. This is our third film. We are documentarians that are fascinated with fandom.
Sure.
Both of our documentaries that we made in the past were based around Star Wars
Excellent.
fandom. And which is kind of weird because there were 24 Star Wars documentaries made.
Right.
And we were kind of the last ones.
Right.
But with The Walking Dead, there's like us and nobody else.
Well, it's kind of like with Lord of the Rings. There's that Ringers one. I don't know if you guys ever saw that, but there's a documentary called Ringers. It's about the fans of Lord of the Rings. These are huge movies. These are huge books. There's millions of fans. There's one movie that I found. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, very, very strange.
Let's make a Lord of the Rings one. Yeah. How about one about podcasters? Let's make one of those.
Well, we actually have one of our next projects is going to be called The Real Fans of the Saga. And it's a serious series that we're going to do, but it's kind of mocking the housewives.
Okay.
And the reason why I came up with this idea is my wife watches too much reality TV, and I've become fascinated with the way some of that stuff is shot. Very
Sure.
different than the way we film our documentaries. But when I was doing the Star Wars documentary, I was fascinated with that people have really hardcore conversations with other fans.
Oh, yeah.
You know, but they're very, very deep.
We did a live podcast last night, and it was just a few of us here, and we were talking Doctor Who. Now, out of the 8 people that were here, it was the first night we were doing it. Don't throw the hate. Most of them were not Doctor Who fans. Like, they didn't really know, but we had this little conversation. The couple that were here that were fans, holy cow, did they go deep. I mean, and I'm like, that wasn't even one of those things. If you take a room full of fans, man, it goes crazy.
My brother may have been one of those 2 people.
Was he?
He is a...
Ladies and gentlemen, Silent Bob is with us now.
Yes. He is, my brother is a huge Doctor Who fan.
Now, you haven't said your name.
My name is Ian Vacek. I am the director of photography and Chris's partner in crime.
Okay, now do you go DOP or DP?
DP.
Because DOP is the Canadian way. You know that, right?
DP.
It's kind of weird when you see
and
that.
And this is a family show, so we won't...
Yeah, that's
go
right.
any further than that.
Well, when we turn off the mics, I've got other names I'm going to call you, and I'm sure you've got some for him, too.
Well, he actually signed it up.
Well, this is a family show. We were signing autographs at the Walker Stalker Con down in Atlanta, and he puts director, and I put DP, and somebody brought something up, one of the female fans, and well, I signed.
Had another interpretation of the
and
initials.
so now I write it out, director of photography.
That's probably a good idea.
We don't want any confusion,
yeah,
especially amongst the female fans.
Yeah, no kidding.
And he's a married man.
Happily married.
Well, of course, you're DP, so.
We are both happily married men.
Wait, okay, we're not going to get into that now. So, okay, so you guys do documentaries. We're going to boil it down here. You guys do documentaries. You've done 2 so far that are Star Wars based, which is awesome. That totally tweaks people on our network right there. We have 2 Star Wars podcasts, Radio Free Endor, and we have a new one based on Rebels. It's the Star Wars Rebels cast. What an original name! So we are definitely Star Wars fans. I mean, most people in geekdom are, unless they go, it's all Star Trek.
You know, it's funny because, like I was saying, we did 2 Star Wars documentaries kind of at the end. The first one was The Force Among Us, released in 2006, and then The Force Within Us, which was released in 2013. And what I've noticed is that Star Wars. Everybody's a Star Wars fan,
Right.
but it's so funny because I'm like, well, if you're a Star Wars fan, buy our DVD.
Yeah. Right.
But now it's like,
Hey, listen to our podcast. That's what I tell people all the time.
the funny thing is here we are, not even promoting, because I promoted The Force Among Us and The Force Within Us for several years.
Right.
But now I'm doing a fraction of that promoting with The Walkers Among Us, which is the Walking Dead fan documentary.
Right.
And people are coming out of the woodworks. We want to buy your DVD. We want to buy your T-shirts.
You know, it's crazy. You know, when you go to the cons, like you go to the T-shirt things, everything is zombies and dead. I mean, it's just
We
the
had
thing.
special T-shirts made for Kickstarter supporters.
We're going to talk about your Kickstarter too. We want to promote that a little bit. 'Cause
And-
you guys have been doing that. Have you done it in the past?
This was our second
Okay.
Kickstarter campaign.
We'll get back to that.
So we're at the con and we're shooting, and I've got random people first of all, random people coming up to us, which was crazy to me. Saying, you guys are the Walkers Among Us guys. I supported your Kickstarter
Wow.
campaign. I can't wait to see it. And
That's awesome.
It was very awesome, and I was blown away. I told my wife, I said, we're down here working, and just random people are seeking us out,
That is
wanting
really
to talk to us,
cool.
which was very cool because it is all about the fans. And to get back to the T-shirt thing, I had twice where I was walking through the con, and I had people come up to me, try to trade me my Walkers Among Us T-shirt, which, even though this is our film, I've got one T-shirt.
Right.
And I had a woman. I had a woman and a young man try and trade the T-shirts off their back.
What, they think it was Disney World or something? You know, they do that with the pins and things. I'll give you
Yes.
my pin if you give me yours.
Yes. So I'm like, I'm not taking my shirt off in the middle of the con either because it's gonna.
We'd all like to thank you for that. You're not taking it off in Blue Box Cafe either.
No. I don't want. Wait, there's enough scary stuff out there. We don't need any scary stuff in here.
You know, I know you said you want to get back to the Kickstarter thing, but the Kickstarter campaign that we had, it already ended. You know.
Okay. Okay. I thought you guys had one going currently.
No. But it ended successfully. But the funny thing is,
Fantastic.
you know, there's different kind of Star Wars fans. There's the hardcores.
Right.
And I think everybody's a hardcore Walking Dead fan. But this was our second campaign. And I was so strung out because the Star Wars one was a walk in the park. We had that thing funded like halfway through the campaign.
Okay.
And I'm like, man, just are people not going to get the Walking Dead thing in their head, you know? Or
Right.
is this a flop? Is this a failure? We already started production. We have like 10 hours left and we still need like $4,000 to go. But I tell you, man, at the end of the day, we reached over our funding goal.
Fantastic.
And, oh, man, but I tell you, a Kickstarter is great because the first film that I did, I had to pay at least $20,000 out of my own pocket.
Okay.
There was no Kickstarter in 06,
Right.
05,
Right.
06, 07. And Kickstarter is very, very cool because one of the things as a producer is the financial responsibility.
Sure.
And one of the things as a producer is the creative responsibility, you know?
Right.
And when you got the financial thing taken care of, then you can focus on making a really, really good quality
And
project.
until you have
know?
that financial, trust me, I know because of our network, my wife and I own it, this is what we think about all day. And I've been in the middle of a major website redesign in order to make it attractive so we can make money. It's cut down on the creativity because there's so much focus on all this web design, money. How do I reach this person? How do I do that? So I totally get it. And this whole thing for us started with pure creativity. We just went like, it doesn't cost anything to start a podcast. Boom, we're off and running. And that was it. So
a lot of the things too, you know, speaking about creativity, a lot of people ask us, you know, well, a couple things. We went down to Atlanta and Georgia and we filmed on location.
and you were at Walker Stalker at that time?
We were a Walker Stalker at the end. You know, we went down to Grantville, Sonoy, you know, where Woodbury was. And I think one of the reasons why we wanted to do that is because in the Star Wars documentaries that we did, we filmed in Finse, Norway. We filmed in Northern California where the Ewok Forest, where Endor was. We filmed in Death Valley in Tunisia. So there was
Fantastic.
there was a little bit of me that said, you know what, why don't we do that down in Georgia?
Right.
You know, visit the filming locations.
It's right there. Yeah.
It's right there. And so we interviewed 3 walkers, 3 of the main walkers on the show.
Nice.
And one of the walkers said, we're hearing that AMC doesn't want us to talk to you. And I'm
Really?
like, yeah. And I'm like, well, do they understand what's going on? And they said, well, I'm going to explain that to them. And they said, these guys making the Walkers Among Us, it's not about The Walking Dead.
Right.
It's not about season 5.
Yeah, it's not
and
you
season
profiting
6.
off of their back. It's you're talking about the culture and the fan.
Well, if
Makes sense to me. I wish I was the one telling them what to do.
If they were going to sue us, we would send them a bill for what we owe on production costs.
There you go.
And as far as them being concerned about spoilers, that's not the kind of movie that we're making,
Right.
We are huge fans. I don't want to know what's going to happen next week or at the end of the season because I want
somebody's going to die. Oh, did I just spoil?
I want
for
to
you?
but I want to watch the show in real time with everybody else and
Right.
have the conversations. And my sister is a big fan, and when the comic touches the show, she'll start to talk to me about it. And then I'll say, well, that's, in the comic, and it's right away. So, you know what? I don't want to talk about it with you because I don't want to know where it's going.
That's something about the show, to touch on the show for a second, that's beautiful about the show. I've read the comics. I'm one of these fans. Like, I've read all of them. I love the show. I don't go to conventions and that yet, but I'm sure I probably will.
You should. You should check it out at least once.
Well, here's what's interesting. They have done a beautiful job of keeping my interest. They keep me guessing. So even though I know, like I knew cannibals, I'm like, oh, it's a cannibals, but I didn't know what was going to happen. And they really flipped it on its head.
They did.
So even when you're getting spoiled, like I sat there with my wife biting my tongue, and then she finally said, just tell me. And I told her, this is what I think is going on. And then it wasn't it because they keep you guessing, but they touch on it just enough. It's awesome. They do. That's why this show is so good. They really pay attention to that stuff.
I mean, we've discussed it because we read
ad nauseum, right?
Well, yeah, we read the comics and all the people that we shoot. We talk about it and have these discussions, and it's great. Like you said, the comic and the TV show kind of kiss each other.
Right. But they're different.
And then they go on their own paths, and then they come back together.
Yeah.
It's a phenomenal show.
Well, I love how certain characters are dead in the book, but not dead on the show, or don't even exist in the book, and you're so attached to them, and then you're like, but it's a different story. I think they do that beautiful job with that. And same thing with the games. I don't know if you guys have touched on that in your documentary, but like the Telltale games, that's another area where you start playing them, and it's got that where it kind of touches, but like Glenn is in the first one, and you're like, oh, it's Glenn, but what happens there, yes, it's part of it, but it's different. It's like, I can't tell if they're supposed to be the same universe or not, but I don't care. Just give me 50 Glenn stories. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, too, at the end of the day, to be good, to try to be good documentarians, we interviewed a lot of people about why are you fascinated by this. If you relate to characters on the show, which character do you relate to and why? And we interviewed people. We learned that this is a family show. Surprisingly enough, and
it is. It's weird, isn't it?
And then we started asking people like, okay, well, if your kid's 7, you don't want to expose them to that show, but people down in Georgia say, they film it here.
Right.
My 5-year-old sees these zombies walking around, and they know it's fake.
Right.
So then we can expose them to the show. So
Right.
there's all these different ways that people think based upon what area they live in, and it's just we wanted to kind of get to the root of why The Walking Dead, why even the zombie apocalypse. I mean, what is it about the fascination?
So how far into production are you right now?
We are at the end, man. I mean,
this is tail end.
This is the tail
You're
end.
just getting
Yes.
some extra shots to kind of fill in gaps.
Because speaking about AMC trying to sue us, one thing we don't want. Well, they're not trying to sue us, but the possibility
you
of
made a reference, right?
You can't use. We know because we've done this before. You can't use the music from the show.
Right.
You can't incorporate scenes from episodes in the show.
Right.
So when somebody's talking about the zombie apocalypse in The Walking Dead, this is our B-roll here, right here, you know?
There you
and
go.
I know you said this is a festival. To me, this is almost like a reenactment that people are watching.
It's wild, isn't
You
it?
know?
They've got like crashed cars and smoke and like
Upside down crashed cars.
upside down with broken windows. It's bizarre.
I mean, it's
I didn't
kind-
know what to expect when I came out
It's
here.
kind of almost like a freak show because people are coming down here and they're watching this.
Well, that's another
disaster.
festival for American Horror Story. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I have my thoughts on American Horror Story as well, but you know, we got to stay on target.
Yeah, that'll be another podcast because now that I know you guys are local, we're going to be talking.
So
We got Star Wars, American Horror Story.
you know, we love it. Somebody asked me, they're like, well, are you a fan of The Walking Dead? I'm like, you can't make a documentary
No.
and have it passionate and have the fans want to see it if you weren't a fan. Otherwise,
No, I'm not making
You know?
one about Murder, She Wrote. I'll tell you that right
you know,
now.
exactly.
I know we are huge fans, and there was a couple times, you know, making this particular documentary. We're at the con and we're interviewing the actors and stuff, but then I had a fanboy moment a couple times. I'm in the service elevator, and there's Scott Wilson standing next to
man,
me.
really?
And this guy,
Did you check his neck?
well, it was still connected amazingly. This guy, we're meeting some friends for dinner, and we switched restaurants, and he comes, I'm like, where are you? And he's like, when I went to get him at the restaurant, Scott Wilson was there, and check out this photo I got with him, and I was like...
So is Scott Wilson kind of the Lou Ferrigno of Walking Dead? Like he's at everything, he's just kind of everywhere?
No.
That was
no.
a joke.
But he's so, everybody in the cast is so nice. But I finally got my fanboy moment. I ran into Scott.
That's awesome.
Took a picture with him. Super nice guy. I mean, these guys, all the fans, the interaction between the fans and the cast from the show is amazing because it is like a huge family, and they're all really down to earth and you don't necessarily see the big actors walking around like the Andy Lincoln, Norman Reedus, because they would just get mobbed.
No, but they still do. They still.
They do. You will occasionally see them out, and everybody else, you're like,
I mean, Scott
There's Herschel.
Wilson's a huge actor. I mean, the guy's been around for years, you know, and I mean, he's just hanging out at the Hard Rock Cafe. But you know, they have handlers there, and they're like, hey, you know, if you want to take a photo, you got to make it quick because he's on the move. Otherwise, everybody would stop him and talk to him. But you know, they charge at the convention for their autograph, for their photograph. But when you're at the right place at the right time, they don't shy you away. You know, they really spend time, and we were fortunate enough to mic up some fans, and there's this one guy. His name is Sean. Sean has Down syndrome, and he's a resident of Georgia, and he was actually mentioned in an interview by name. Sean Tracy's his name. Norman Reedus.
Sean Tucker.
Sean Tucker. Tracy's his mom. So I get those. Getting my names mixed up.
His GQ article that Norman
Mentioned-
Reedus did, he mentioned Sean by name.
And he won this Special Olympics medal, and he won a couple, and he wanted to give one to Norman Reedus, and Norman Reedus says, I want your autograph, and he goes, you know that hat he wears? It was a Yankees hat,
It was a Yankees hat.
The Yankees hat. He goes, here you
gave
go,
it to
man. I
Sean.
want you to have this. So we did an interview.
That is unbelievable.
It's
What
so
a guy,
unbelievable.
man. What a guy.
It was great because Sean was, well, I don't know. I mean, that's what makes this all worth it is stuff like that. And Chris was doing an interview with somebody. We're on a tour at the Esco feed mill. Chris is doing an interview. I'm shooting, and Sean walks up, and he was looking at the camera and, you know, whispering to me. And then he just started saying, cut. He became the director. And I was like, hold on a second. And then at the end, I was like, all right, yell it. He's like, cut.
That is so great, man.
One of the coolest things is we wanted to get Sean in the documentary. We found out about him.
How do you not at that point? I mean,
And
I want to get him on the podcast now that I hear this.
The funny thing is that we didn't even know about him until like the night before we were going to leave. I didn't read the GQ article with Norman Reedus, and we found out about this when we were interviewing him and his mom. So we get a chance because he's like, I got another medal I want to give to Norman, and he's standing around this crowd of people, and everybody's kind of running around Norman, and they want to see him.
Yeah.
Norman Reedus walks up to him. He's like, Sean, you're my buddy. Didn't ignore everybody
Wow.
else, but pointed him out of the crowd.
No, he made him special. That's awesome.
Made it feel real special. And then when we got a chance to mic him up, and when he met Norman again at the convention to give him another medal.
Okay.
He tells Norman, he goes, my film crew. This is my film crew. Norman Reedus turns around with Sean, gives us a thumbs up, waves to the camera. And, there's just...
That is fantastic.
There's so many...
You are selling this movie, too. I want to see it so bad now that you're saying this. Well, okay, so we're big fans. We have this show, Input Junkie, which might be what we're showing this on. We actually did one about our top documentaries. And we're big fans of, like, Trekkies, which is just an amazing documentary. And it's reminding me of that kind of thing, where it's like the fans are really showcased. You feel like you're getting in there with them and you understand it.
You know what? I personally feel like Trekkies, one, exploited the fans, in my opinion. Trekkies 2 was made because the filmmaker, I think, was misunderstood. She's like, no.
Yeah.
These are just the people that we talked to.
Okay, I'm gonna counter that a little bit.
Okay.
I totally see your point, though, so I'm not really countering it. When I first saw it, I was laughing kind of at it, okay? Which would be exploiting the fans some. And I know that upset some fans, okay? On subsequent viewings, and I've seen this a bunch of times, I really don't feel that way. And it might be the director's intention is coming through, but that initial viewing, because it is so funny, that it comes off that way. But you're right, the second one wasn't the same kind of funny. It was definitely more of a love letter to the fan, I felt. And you know what? That stuff with the Filk bands is one of my favorite things of any of these types of documentaries. I loved when they went through the bands and they're like, yeah, we're Star Trek, the band, and then we're Deep Space Nine, the band. We're the one after that band. And I thought that was just brilliant. I think, too, that the first Trekkies, they took a look at, like, the hardcore of the hardcores. I mean, the really, really hardcores. When in our Star Wars documentary, the first one, The Force Among Us, we showed a little bit of the hardcores, but then we tried to dispel the stereotype, like, the Star Wars fans are not living at home in their parents' basement, that sort of thing. And with the Walkers Among Us... No, I'm married. I mean, I wear pajama pants all day, but I'm married.
But do you live in the basement?
Okay, we're not going to throw stones at me about any of this stuff. Here's the sad thing. It is my parents' house, but they don't live there anymore. They moved out. We took over the house. Very sad. So I'm always like, hey, I grew up in this house. No, I didn't. I moved away for years, and I have a kid and a wife. And okay, I'm in pajama pants, and okay. Let's not throw stones here, okay?
But there was even this one guy, Mark Rosenthal. We saw his photos, and he sent us some video, and we were like, man, this is going to be like the crazy interviews because he's so hardcore. He's a walker stalker, and he got that name by stalking the stars at the filming locations.
Well, as filmmakers, you go in to make a movie about the fans, and we're talking to a broad spectrum of people. So you start to talk to people or hear backstories or hear from other fans about certain people, and you go, all right, where's the nearest exit? So if this one goes off the rails, but when you start talking to these people, they're
no different than us.
They're passionate fans, and they have kids, have day jobs.
Well, really, are they any different than sports fans?
No,
I mean,
not
seriously.
at all. That's a conversation we have all the time.
Okay.
I'm a huge baseball fan, and if you went to my man cave, you would be like, okay, you love Star Wars and you love baseball. And if you weren't passionate about something, my man cave might freak you out a little bit because there's not a space in the wall that really breathes. I mean, there's just so much stuff down there.
That's an understatement.
But the cool thing about it is, a lot of Star Wars fans don't understand baseball. A lot of baseball fans don't understand Star Wars. I am in a wonderful spot to be in the middle because I understand both. And I'm like, can't we all get along? There's no difference between you and me,
I view it all as fandom. You know, like I'm not a big sports guy at all. To me, I used to watch stuff, but now it's at a point where I'm just like, it's all kind of a different shaped ball, and I don't really pay attention. But I don't have a problem with it. If you're a fan, you're wearing the jersey, what's the difference? We do a lot of stuff with cosplayers. Now, I'm not a cosplayer. I'm not one of these guys that dresses up. I dress up like 40-year-old man-child is how I dress all the time. But cosplayers, I get it, and that's why we get along so well with them. It's like you're a fan and you're showing it off.
That's one of the things with this
passion,
film
right?
is been great is that there are the hardcore horror fans that we've talked to at some of the cons, but there's we've followed two groups of cosplayers around.
Nice.
They're phenomenal. All these people we've met, I love them all to death. They're phenomenal people. They do it. Some of them do it with their kids, but I think something about The Walking Dead, it almost transcends that.
Well, it's because it's not horror; it's crossed over. So, like, we have friends that are like, you know, this is a mom who never watched a horror movie in her life.
Exactly.
She has to borrow all the comics from me because she's like, the show is so good. And she gets into it. And, like, if you said, hey, let's go watch a horror movie, that would never happen. But she's a huge fan. It has crossed over in a way that other things don't.
But I think, too, you know, just because I'm always a...
Man, we got all serious here. What happened?
No, it's good, you know.
We get Silent Bob over here.
I think one of the things that we wanted to show, too, is that, you know, the one that really started all this and that kind of put this genre on the map is Romero.
Oh, of course.
You know,
man.
so we went to Pittsburgh and we filmed an interview in the Evans City Cemetery. You know, we interviewed.
Are you kidding?
We interviewed.
Please
Judith
tell me
O'Day.
you walked around and kind of acted it out, please.
Well, we did an interview with a gentleman by the name of
Kevin
Kris,
yes.
who has a museum in Evans City, and we did his interview at the gravesite where Judith O'Day with the canted angle. And ironically enough, we happened to be on an off day passing through Pittsburgh, and one of Chris's friends called and said, you know, there's a horror con going on here. And he's like, what do you think? Should we go, or do we? Because it was our travel day to Baltimore. I'm like, oh, let's go and see what happens. I don't know, how long did we end up spending there? 6 or 8 hours?
Yeah, all day.
We interviewed Judith O'Day. We talked to Tom Savini.
And then we interviewed Tom Savini. And so if, you know, people that are listening to this podcast show, if they're Walking Dead fans, but maybe more hardcore horror, where they were introduced to this genre, and they're like, hey, these guys are making a Walking Dead documentary, but what about its roots? We didn't forget about that. I mean,
that's fantastic. I'm glad to hear that, because that is something that has kind of gotten lost in the shuffle with a lot of people. They don't quite understand that. It's like I went to see. Now I love zombie movies. I went and saw Return of the Living Dead at a drive-in recently, and it was like, it was the greatest. But when I tell people, they're like, oh, I don't know what that is. It's a zombie movie. I'm not that interested. I'm like, you watch Walking Dead, you should be watching this freaking movie. It's awesome.
We did an interview in Atlanta with Howard Sherman.
Get out.
Yes, and I had another fanboy moment. I did the whole...
I would too.
I got the picture and everything, but it was interesting to talk to him and him saying, okay, some people recognize me, but it's mostly Walking Dead fans here, so people are walking by him going, who is this guy? But that's part of the connection to Romero.
So does Ian walk around like with all feels about stuff when you go to these cons? He's all like, you know, oh, look who it is. Does he do that to you? That's your sound guy.
That's our sound guy. We got to give him he gets a half an hour break like every couple hours so he can run around and get his, go through his autograph lines and stuff. No, I just, there's certain, some of the actors who, I've been fans of from other things, and that's the beauty of doing this. It's like, this is my work. This is what I do for a living, but I get to fly that freak flag of geekdom.
Yeah. No, you have to have fun with it too, because if you don't, it can make a really, really long day that much longer. Like I said, we're at the end of post-production, going to start editing next week. It's going to take a while, but this is what
you got to wrap things up and.
This
Yeah.
is the beginning of
Now,
post-production.
have you been editing as you go along at all, or are you just
in our head,
collecting
in our
footage?
head,
and-
you know, like
I know how it
Amadeus
works.
up here in my noodle, you know.
Yeah.
But the film will be released in March of 2015.
Okay, you're going to have to make sure we're on your radar. We will post it on our website. We'll tweet it out. We'll do whatever we can for you, because I'm sure people listening to this, if they're anything like me, are now dying to see this. Now, have you cut like a trailer or anything?
Yeah, there's a trailer on YouTube, but it was done so long ago that it's missing a lot of the footage because we needed to get something out before we did our Kickstarter campaign, you know?
I've had people this week, because it's kind of blown up without us really just posting some pictures from Georgia. Like, I saw the trailer. It's so, it's awesome. I love it. I can't wait to see it. Like, dude, that's like...
Yeah, and Ultron was so awesome in it. See, I got to laugh on that one. People at home can't tell that I got to laugh. That was a good one.
It's like not even a third of what we shot.
Not
even a third
no.
of what we shot. I mean, there's so much more good stuff, and like talking about it now, it's kind of making my head spin, because I know there's so much good stuff in there that it's gonna
but
hard to cut down.
But because we've done this not once but twice before, that helps. Every time you do a film project, another documentary, you really, really learn a lot, and it gives you the experience from before.
We talk about that all the time with our podcast, with the live stuff we're doing. Every time we go out, my wife and I sit there and unpack it and go, my God, we learned a lot. We're going to do all this differently, or we're going to add this.
And I think that's why you got to keep going.
It's the same thing, man.
That's why you got to keep going, because you're like, oh man, I wish we would have done that in the last one. Well, you know what? You could do it in the next one.
That's right.
And if people, we do not have a website right now, but you can go to the Walkers Among Us on Facebook. We're going to have a red carpet event, most likely at the Arcata. In St. Charles.
Okay.
That'll be in March.
Okay.
If you go to...
I'm going to be expecting an invitation.
It's open to the public.
No, I expect an invitation.
We will give you an invitation. Hopefully you can do a podcast show from there.
We will do a podcast from that, and we'll see if we can get our Biters guys out there, because we have the show Biters, which is a Walking Dead podcast. Now, I want to tell you something about them. Kirk, who does the artwork, Jeff and Kirk do a zombie comic called Zeegril and the Four Tigers. Totally tied into the whole zombie thing. Talk about fans. I see pictures from them at cons, and I'm like, people come dressed as their zombies and stuff. It's really cool. Kirk has been doing artwork for the episodes. So he watches the premiere of Walking Dead this year. He does artwork. Robert Orsi wrote back to him and was like, dude,
wow,
we got to get you on a payroll here. You're awesome. So it's, once again, I'm not saying that, I'm saying it to promote Kirk because he's awesome, and Jeff because they're awesome, but that even from the top down, Robert Orsi is reaching out to a fan saying, dude, your artwork is awesome. Thank you for doing this. I mean, what a great group of people.
Yeah, that's very, very cool. And, I think that at the end of the day, I think that's...
We're trying to get them out here for this, too.
It's all about the stories from the fans and just listening to that, because when you watch this documentary, and if you're a fan of it, you're a fan of The Walking Dead,
right,
or even Romero's films, you're really gonna say, wow, it's cool to hear other stories.
Well, you're hearing from the fan. If you're a fan, it touches you.
Yes,
so I totally get that.
Exactly.
Now, I know you guys want to get out there. There's lots of footage. I'm standing here talking to you guys. I'm watching people dressed as zombies eating people on the ground.
I was just looking at that myself. I'm like, there's families, there's kids out here.
I thought I saw a Disney princess zombie. I mean, it's like Deadpool's walking around. So I'm sure you guys want to go. But before you do, I want to hear, what is the next project?
Turtles.
Shut up! Really?
No, it's funny because
we were just this guy's got a new idea every time we're together. He's got, like, we're gonna do this.
That's how we ended up with 50 podcasts.
Exactly.
So we were just joking about it outside while we were waiting for this thing to kick off, that he's like, the next project is Turtles.
Well, the joke is that we're so passionate about the Star Wars thing, and we're huge fans of The Walking Dead, but I spent 7 years of my life promoting the Force series. And you can go to theforceamongus.com and you can still order those 2 DVDs, our first 2 films. But, The Walking Dead thing is kind of like taking off The Walkers Among Us without us even doing half of the promotion. And I'm thinking it's going to be a crazy documentary about turtles that's going to put us on the map, something that we don't Not that we don't care about turtles.
Well, we love turtles. We don't want the turtle haters.
Well, you know what? There is a Turtles documentary. I saw somebody's doing that back in the shell or something, and it's a whole Turtles documentary. I saw like a reel for that recently. So you guys got to crush them.
I have to backtrack because I think at the beginning of this show, we talked about the real fans of the saga, and that's our next project, and it's kind of a mock. It's kind of a. It's not a mockumentary, but it's shot like The Housewives.
Yeah,
but
you're shooting it a different way, right?
We're shooting it a different way, and we're talking to fans, not interviewing fans.
Right.
Just going to the bars, going to their homes.
Just having a chat with them.
And they're chatting amongst themselves. It's not even interview style. And we're going to do that with, not only Star Wars, but,
Doctor Who.
Doctor Who, Indiana Jones, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Transformers. It'll be a series of shows.
So how do we make this happen that we become partners? Because we are the same thing here, and we work the same way. Like, we get an idea. So one of our guys the other day is like, he's going through Thundercats and Back to the Future and all this. And then we went.
You know who we got to get on the Thundercats one is my lovely wife.
Is she a Thundercats?
She is a huge Thundercats fan,
Wow.
and as part of this project,
Is she Team Lion-O?
we let me tell you
another laugh there.
quick little story. We were doing at C2E2. Actually, we were doing a thing at Mother's, interviewing a friend of Chris's for this doc, and there was a burlesque show that was rehearsing.
Okay.
The guy came up, talked to us. Rob, super cool dude. They were doing a special.
Of course, he's super cool. He's named Rob.
They were doing a burlesque show for C2E2 after party.
Yeah.
And they did a whole Walking Dead themed
Yep.
thing. So we went and shot that. But
You shot it because
we
I knew
shot
about that one.
It was awesome.
At the same time, we were having a party across the street. We did a private event with a My Little Pony tribute band and a Doctor Who tribute band. A little different than burlesque.
Well, to get back to the whole Thundercat thing, there was a gentleman doing the whole Lionel burlesque thing.
Oh, wow.
So when I ran into him, I had him. My wife was sitting up at the bar, and I said, "Can you do me a favor? Can you go?" My wife's a huge Thundercats fan, and she saw me from across the room when he came up to her, and she just started dying laughing. So she's one for.
Sadly,
for
she
the
sent
Thundercats.
Snark over to you or whatever that little cat thing is. Not quite the same effect.
So we're gonna.
She'll get that joke if she's a Thundercats fan.
We're gonna do the real saga, and then
We'll have her. We'll try and get her on our. This guy is doing an '80s podcast where he's like, I can't focus on one. Great, we're just talking out. So we'll get her on for Thundercats.
She makes like, oh, you're such a geek, you're such a dork, this and that, and then I'm
Okay,
like, who's
but
the
she
one
likes
with?
Thundercats.
I said, who's the one with the Thundercats T-shirt in the house?
She likes Thundercats. Trump.
So besides the real saga, we're actually in the middle of production of we're doing a craft beer and craft spirits show.
Okay, I thought you were going to do like DIY crafting because then you lost me.
No, that I'll save that one for my mom.
Your mom.
We got the Hops and the Angels share is our craft beer show. That's going to be a regular thing. Real fans of the saga, that's going to be probably a regular thing. And then another thing we're doing is a third Star Wars documentary, which is going to be all about the filming locations. That'll be in production next year as well. And if you go to Facebook and check out The Force Among Us and The Walkers Among Us, we will always be promoting our other projects on those pages because a lot of our Star Wars fans from the first two, they've jumped on board. They're like, I don't like The Walking Dead, but we loved your Star Wars project so much that whatever you do,
See, that's where you want to be. That's awesome.
We're trying to. And
that's awesome.
We do have
well, we're going to do our part to promote you guys because this was a great conversation. I'm so interested in what you guys have going on, and I'm sure our people are going to be too because we've got lots of fans, lots of podcasters that are going to be like, dude, who are those people?
Right.
So,
thanks for taking your time and
absolutely.
having us on
Thanks
the
for
show.
taking your time. I know you guys got to get some shooting done out there. So, thank you, and we'll see you guys at Walker Stalker.
Well, we're doing a panel there.
Are you doing the one in
Navy Pier in February?
Oh, in February. Well, I'll definitely go to that. Okay.
And we're going to have a panel
but
there.
Are you
as
doing
well.
the one in New York? There's one that's coming up in a couple of weeks.
No, probably not.
Oh, Kirk is there. They gave him a booth.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
So any fans of The Walking Dead, go see Kirk Manley out there.
It's funny because
he's selling his artwork. He's sold out at New York Comic Con, and they're like, and then the Walker Stalker guys came up and said, "You need to be at our show."
we hadn't talked about it, and that was actually something I was going to talk to Chris about tonight because we are just about done with production. But I'm like, yeah, that
You might have to talk this one out a little bit.
Out there.
All right, Chris.
That's the thing. When you film, you have to draw the line somewhere, and you have to be like, we're done. Otherwise,
You're the guy that has to worry about the money, so I get that.
exactly.
Hands over here like, hey, you got that wallet open? Let's go. I hear there's one in Alaska. Let's go.
You really got to draw the line. Otherwise, what happens is you become like, unfortunately, a lot of other filmmakers, you don't get
You make the Avatar
you don't
of
get a chance.
documentaries about Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
Or you get bogged down with everything. I mean, we've talked to some other filmmakers.
It never ends, and
and
you
we've
really have
talked to
to
a couple
draw the
guys,
line.
and they're like, we've got caught up. We're not sure where to go. We keep shooting. Like, there is that point where you got to go, okay, we're done. I mean, like I think Chris mentioned before, just when we shot in Georgia, we've got enough to make a doc.
Have enough footage to make a documentary on the trip to Georgia alone.
I do. We do have one of the bonus features. Is I got to mention this. When I stepped in the fire anthill while we were filming, and our sound guy Jay, who is awesome, started hitting me in the shoulder. He's like, dude, and I'm like, shooting, like, what? And then all of a sudden I look down and they all bit at once.
Your foot was gone.
Yeah. Pretty much. It looked like a scene out of The Walking Dead.
What was the first one you read the comics, right? I can't remember his name. The guy that lost his leg in the very first, like in the 6th issue. Herschel. No, not Herschel. Gosh.
That was a TV show.
Yeah, no, Herschel, right. But remember in the original Dale, you were Dale. You got your leg cut off there.
Yes.
Yeah, I couldn't remember it there, so forgive me. So, guys, thank you so much. Chris, Ian, you guys were awesome. We will definitely be sending stuff out there. Thanks for coming out to the Blue Box here in Elgin. We had an awesome time.
It's funny how 10 minutes turned into an hour.
It's funny. You know what? Well, and the funniest part is how we had the mic off, and we're like, we better start doing this because we've been talking for 20 minutes already. So, man, I can't tell you what a pleasure this was having you guys out. So thank you so much.
Looking forward to coming down here on a Saturday.
Excellent. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, man.
If you would like to donate to help pay for this and other Southgate Media Group podcasts, simply go to our website, southgatemediagroup.com, and click on the donate button. It can be as little as $1 or, well, as much as you want. Help keep this fun going by supporting this and our other shows. Thanks again for listening, everyone. You're the best fans in the world.